Hi, I'm Dr. Dina Churchill, innovator of women's health and wellness, and this is part 2 of Healthy Brain series. So there's a few points I forgot to mention in the first video that I did earlier tonight, so if you haven't watched it, scroll down so you can catch up. But the first thing is that this Broken Brain documentary series that I've just recently watched is excellent. It has experts in the field of mental health and all sorts of different advice on different levels. Is free just for this weekend. So if you scroll down, maybe I'll post it in this link as well, you can still watch it for free, complimentary this weekend. So that's important. I also mentioned about probiotics, and I showed you a book called The Gut and Psychological Syndrome. This is probably the best book. If you're reading one that I'd recommend on brain health, it would be this one, Natasha Campbell McBride. And the reason why probiotics are important, I don't think I explained it well, was that the probiotics help with the absorption of certain nutrients that you need to keep your brain healthy. So the fermented vegetables, for example, and coconut that I mentioned earlier, is necessary in our society. Even if you're not taking antibiotics, against biotic life that kills and wipes out all our natural bacteria, still living in today's world with our toxins, wipe out our natural flora. And our genetically modified foods, the glyphosate that you've heard me talk about almost in every video, is like a planetary antibiotic. Not only is it sterilizing you, it's sterilizing the soil, it's sterilizing our oceans. It's a horrible chemical. So we really need to be supplementing. So here's a picture in this book, Gut and Psychological Syndrome. They call it GAPS, G-A-P-S, of this is a villi, an enterocyte in your intestine. So this is a healthy cell. So it has lots of these hair-like villi. So the absorption of nutrients, has a greater surface area. But if your gut has been assaulted by antibiotics, glyphosate from our genetically modified foods, chlorine, fluoride, anything that wipes out our natural bacteria, then this is what the cell looks like. It only has a few of these little hair cells or microvilli, so the absorption of our nutrients are less. It also affects the permeability of our membrane and, again, our absorption rate. So in this book, I'd just like to read a quote. This was a French psychiatrist, Philippe Pinel, and he wrote this almost 200 years ago. And he says, the primary seat of insanity generally is the region of the stomach and intestines. Now, since then, there's been lots of different researchers look at, in particular, schizophrenia and the effect that avoiding carbohydrates, wheat in particular, has on schizophrenia, and how schizophrenics improve so much, even just in a 30-day period of avoiding carbohydrates and wheat. So foods that are inflammatory in your body are also inflammatory in your brain. So this MD talks about the gut and psychology syndrome in relation to things like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, depression, and schizophrenia. And again, how the gut and the good functioning of the gut is important for good brain function. The other thing I forgot to mention, I talked about grounding in the last video and absorbing our earth energy, our magnetic energy from the earth. They call it, in electricity, they call it ground, because we do have a magnetic energy on the earth. Athletes, Lance Armstrong's chiropractor said that the athletes would lie out on a grid at night to help heal their body with this magnetic energy. So if they couldn't lie on the ground, they would stick a wire in the ground and have this ground electrical grid that they could conduct that energy. And a friend just told me on Amazon, if Corey is watching, he can post the link, that you can buy these grounding sheets for your body to, again, help balance your electrical environment. Things that will throw that electrical environment off. Remember, I said the brain is like a big organ of fat with all these electrical, trillions of electrical connections. The other thing that can throw that off is cell phones or our technology. So at night I've been turning off my router, and I use my cell phone just for pictures and for live Facebook videos, and I turn it off all other times. Research shows that the side that you hold your phone on has greater incidence of brain tumors on that side. So especially at night, I've been trying to get my kids to like turn off their phone, buy an alarm clock, don't use your phone as an alarm clock, and keep that radiation away from your body because it does cause tumors. If you think that, those waves can go through 4 inches of concrete, imagine what it's doing to the cells in your brain. So cell phones, I forgot to mention that. The other thing I talked about was balancing your thoughts, which are really important. But how do you do that? Sometimes you might need a psychologist or a counselor. In the work that I've been doing with my coaching clients, I help ask questions so they can see the other side. Because an event is just an event until you place your perception upon it. So you can get caught up in the cloud, or you can challenge yourself to see the silver lining. But sometimes you need help with that. So, provided you have a good counselor or somebody that you can talk to help show you and help balance the other side. Other things you can do for yourself are to do things that you enjoy, because when you're doing something you love, your brain is flushed with all these amazing chemicals. So whether it's dancing, or whether it's reading, or being with friends, or being social, or playing an instrument, or here in your kitchen doing a Facebook Live video, whatever it is that you love to do, you have to do more of it, because in those moments when your brain is having fun and you're doing what you love, it's a timeless state. It's again, a way to balance your perceptions. So listening to music, being outside, dancing is great, because dancing, you're not only a social, so women, remember I said social is just as important as activity. You're moving, lateral movements in particular are really important for brain, and music. So you're stimulating your brain and your mind by listening to music. So dancing is a great brain activity. There's lots of research on this. The other thing I mentioned in the last video was purpose, finding your purpose. How do you do that? It's really just giving a service. Usually the thing that's caused you the most pain in your life is, and you've learned from, is what your service is to the planet. So whether it's, a disease, overcoming a disease, a divorce, a death, learning how to tile your bathroom, or change efficiently the tire on your car. I don't know, whatever it is that you've learned and that you've overcame is really what your service is to teach others. And when you're giving of yourself, this makes me open my heart. But when you're giving of yourself and you're not expecting anything in return, your brain again is flooded with chemicals, with love chemicals. And whether it's providing coats for your community, or volunteering at your church, or dishing out soup in the soup kitchen, when you're doing something you're not expecting it in return, anything in return, it's unconditional love. It's like a magic that helps balance your brain. So sometimes you have to get out of yourself to see what your greater service is, to give you that bigger perspective. So we mentioned purpose, your thoughts, the probiotics, the technology, the absorption of nutrients. Now I think we're going to get onto our exercise portion. So I mentioned about chiropractic. So chiropractic's amazing, not just because I'm a chiropractor, even if I wasn't. Like when I was 12, I was a chiropractic patient. Because your position of your head affects the perception of the universe and the health of your brain. So with women, they tend to lose this cervical curve. They get straight necks, and men, the head comes forward, anterior head carriage. Then you're working more from your primitive brain, which is more reactive, self-centered. If you have a neutral posture, so you can balance a book on your head, for example, then you're working from your more evolved brain, so your frontal cortex. And that's more service oriented, less self, less reactive, sees the world as a more joyful, humanitarian, loving place to be. So you can imagine in our society and our text necks of our heads forward that there's a real need to exercise and unwind that text neck into a better neck posture. Right-sided brain, as I mentioned earlier, head tilt, and this could be in an adult or in a baby, so check your babies, because if your baby's head is over to the side like this, there is going to be some brain deficit, brain weakness, and if it's to the right, you'll get disorders of thought. So in adults, you'll see that as maybe memory loss, and it could, again, be dementia, or in the later stages, it could be schizophrenia, where if it's a left-sided head tilt, you're affecting disorders of movement, the left side of your brain. So it might start with muscle spasms, or tendinitises, or hamstring spasms, as I'll explain to you in just a second, unexplained groin injuries, that sort of thing, and then it might progress to a little tremor, tremor, and then that tremor into two tremors, into Parkinson's, or into more advanced neurological diseases. So know that the position of your head affects the functioning of your brain. And that's why chiropractic is important, because you can be doing all these other things, the exercise, the probiotics, feeding it good thoughts, but if your head's like this, there's a certain part of your brain that's not getting stimulated. So you need afferent nerve stimulation. You need to move this finger to stimulate here. You move here to stimulate here. You move your big toe to stimulate here. You need body movements to keep your brain alive and healthy. So that's why it's important for babies to be on their belly so they can move and stimulate their brain. When you lie babies on their back, they get plagioccephaly, flat heads, and they don't develop neurologically. So they have low tone that we can see in a chiropractic office, and low tone is one of the indicators for autism. So put your babies on put babies on their bellies, let them move, and I'm going to show you an exercise program that I've developed based on what I've learned from Dr. Michael Hall, who's a functional neurologist, and also what I've recently learned from Dr. Zach Bush, who's a PhD, triple PhD, and I thank Corey for giving me those videos and sending me information, because it's really your friends that kind of support your mission. So this video is put together by a bunch of different people, and I'm really grateful to have you in my life. So this exercise video is, again, a compilation of different mentors that I've studied with, and then put my own sort of twist on it based on what I see in my practice. So just for some of the chiropractors that might be watching, and other neurological people, I mean, normal brain inhibits flexors. In order for us to be upright, right, we have to inhibit the flexors. So anything from toe walking to low back pain, Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, could indicate an upper motor neuron lesion. So embryologically, Dr. Michael Hall talks about this. The neural plate fuses at C4, so he says anything below the clavicle is actually a reflex for what's happening in the neck and head. So most of the exercises in this program I focused to give maximal attention to maintaining the cervical curve and also supporting brain. So the goal in our exercise program, as in chiropractic, is always to sort of dampen those sympathetics, and that's your fight or flight response, right? That's the response that makes your pupils dilate, causes muscle contraction, increased gastric gas in your stomach, increases your heart rate, and you can only sustain that for so long. So your nervous system is what controls your vascular system. It's what controls your skeletal system. It controls your breathing, your respiratory system. So if your nervous system is on high alert, it affects your health in total. So what we've started doing now after my training with Dr. Michael Hall is taking, blood pressure on a regular basis, doing oximeter readings, taking oxygen readings of the tissues, pupil dilation, things that indicate on a subtle level problems in the nervous system. So our goal, again, is to dampen sympathetics. So some of the exercises I'm going to show you, again, are ways to activate parasympathetics and dampen the sympathetics, fight or flight. Parasympathetics is the rest and digest system. So again, in this exercise program, first, brain stimulation. Second, again, is maximal axial strength. So when the axial skeleton, the muscles that support the spine, are of good tone and they're strong, you have less tension in your extremities. And a maximum curve of your neck, again, gives you maximal functioning of your brain. So these are the exercises. It's only a 4-minute workout. You don't need any equipment, and you can do it anywhere, anytime. I'm going to show you some modifications that include equipment because it just makes it a little more intense. And I like to, push the limit. But the first exercise is just marching for a minute. Again, this is Dr. Michael Hall, a neurological chiropractor, where you're just marching and you're lifting your opposite arm and leg. So in this way, you're coordinating your left and right hemispheres. So you're going to do 3 sets, but the first exercise is just marching, and you're just going to march 10 times. So, big strides using your arms and legs, but you're marching 10 times. The second is going to be overhead raises, the second exercise. So you want maximal movement. Again, the more you can move, the more surface area it stimulates in your brain. So you're bringing your arms over your head and you're touching at the top, right? And then you're going to bring them down, and behind your back, you're going to rotate them and you're going to touch them at the bottom. So you bring it up and down 10 times. Again, maximally stimulating the muscles. Again, Dr. Zach Bush says if you can maximally fatigue the muscle, you stimulate something called nitric oxide from your arteries that creates an increase in muscle mass and also increases your metabolism. So it tells the cell to, grow, feed, and breathe, his terms. So maximally stimulating. So 10 times of this one. Exercise 2. So first one is marching. Again, count to 10, and you're marching, moving your arms full range, and then arms over the head, arms behind your back, and you're counting to 10. The third one is the thumb gaze. Now, thumb gazing is important because following and tracking with your eyes helps stimulate the right side of your brain, and turning your head and extending it contracts and strengthens the suboccipital muscles, which are behind here, that help maintain the curve in your neck and also help keep your head in a neutral position. Now, the inferior oblique, which is rotating and extending, has more muscle spindles per gram of muscle tissue than any other muscle in your body. So your latissimus dorsi has like 1.4 spindles per muscle mass. These little muscles have 242 muscle spindles per, a gram of muscle tissue. So the best bang for your buck in strengthening your brain and getting lots of stimulation is a rotation and extension. So the third exercise is going to be a rotating and extending. Again, a Michael Hall exercise. Corner gaze exercise, but I've combined it because at the same time, again, for maximum muscle recruitment, it's a tongue twister, is to squat while you're doing it. So while you're doing your 10, you're squatting and you're holding that squat. So again, you're stimulating at the same time your quads. So your brain is going to be like on overload. I love it. So the first, marching. Second one, arms over your head and then behind. This one's the corner gaze, and you're stimulating inferior oblique, which has lots of muscle spindles. And at the same time, you're holding a squat position. Exercise number 4 is the arm circles. Now, I like these. I made up these myself because I want toned arms, and also because in my practice I see more rotator cuff injuries than any other shoulder injury. In fact, the rotator cuff muscles, those 4 little muscles, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres major and minor, that hold your arm into the socket, aren't worked. And even in traditional gym programs and even in yoga, everyone's stretching, but no one's strengthening those rotator cuff muscles. So just bringing your arms backwards, and you can do it this way or you can do it out straight. I like to kind of put a little bend in my arm and bring it backwards. And then, to make it more intense, Dr. Michael Hall talks about grip strength. So as you're gripping, these I've got on Amazon. They're inexpensive. You can, I'm sure, get them at any sports store, but Amazon's where I got this. At the same time you're doing your arm circles, you can be strengthening your extensor muscles. So for anybody who has a left brain weakness and they're beginning to get tremor, it's because their flexors are stronger than their extensors. So to stimulate your extensors with something like the grip strength, helps, again, correct a tremor and prevent Parkinson's in a healthy person. So as you're doing your arm circles, at the same time, I like to combine these grip strength. So again, 10 repetitions. So summarize, we have our marching, full march, 10, and then we have 10 overhead, click behind. Then we had the thumb gaze, where we're squatting to recruit our quad at the same time, squatting up and over. So we're following our thumb up and back, again, to engage your suboccipital muscles and maintain the curve. So I think those were all the standing ones, and that's the 4-minute workout, just to do 10 repetitions of those 3 times. That's it. And then you're not supposed to do any, that's maximally fatiguing the muscle. You're not supposed to do any more workout, for 2 or 3 hours. And then if you like, you can run through that series again. But you can see it's simple. You can do it anywhere, anytime. I'm walking the dog. I take him off the leash. While he's doing his pee, I can be working through some of those exercises. So, and now there's some other exercises that I've incorporated because we know that bouncing, like a mini trampoline or there's my dog now, a mini trampoline or rebounder is really useful for stimulating your inner ear. So it activates the reticular system and again, activates parasympathetics, the calming. So if you have a colicky baby, the first thing you do is kind of bounce them up and down. So any of these exercises, if you wanted to do them on the rebounder, and I've had patients that have neurological problems, that have MS, that are 90 years old, that can use the handle and can stand on this and just very gently bounce. The bouncing not only stimulates the parasympathetics, but it also increases your bone density by 4 times treadmill running, so the research from NASA says. Helps with circulation, helps with lymph in your body. So the rebounder I like. So any of these exercises you can do on a rebounder. This one I love because it has, it's made with bungee cords instead of springs, so it tends to be a little quieter, but you could do your 4-minute routine that I just showed you, right, on this one. So you can work, you can hold your squat, which makes it a little more challenging, once again, because you're on an unstable base as you're having to turn. The other exercise that I like to recommend to patients is the Superman exercise, because in our daily life we're forward, so our shoulders are rotated forward, our head is forward, we're in a flex position, so our front body is short. So I'll show you this exercise is another one that I love to do. If you had space, you could integrate it into your workout, but the 4-minute workout, I want it to be done anywhere, anytime, so you can't really lie down at the park on the ground and do this one, but you can do it when you get home. So I'll show you the Superman exercise. So you're lying on your belly, you're pushing your pubic bone into the table, and then you're lifting your head first, again, to recruit those suboccipital muscles, lifting your arms. I like palms down. I know there's yoga and Dr. Michael Hall brings palms up, but I still prefer palms down. And you're lifting your legs. So again, it's a maximum muscle expression, stretching the front body and at the same time contracting the back body. The other way that you can increase axial tone, so tone along the spinal cord, along the vertebrae in the spine, is to use a stability ball. And this is one of Dr. Michael Hall's exercises as well. I hope I don't fall off here, but stabilizing at your knees, I hope you can see, stabilizing at your knees, and then having to balance. So you're using, your head is up, and you're having to use your multifidus and rotatory muscles, the little muscles that stabilize one vertebrae to the other in your back. So if you have space to lie down, the Superman exercise, 10 repetitions a couple of times a day, 25 repetitions in the morning and evening is what I recommend to patients, or using a stability ball if you have it, again, makes it a little more challenging. So let me catch my breath and look at my notes and see if there's anything else I want to tell you. I think I'll just run through the exercises again. So marching was the first. Maximum expression, again 10, count to 10. Arms over your head, back, right? And then we looked at the corner gaze, so squatting, so you're doing like a wall squat. And then you're looking up and back, following with your eyes and your head, again engaging the suboccipital muscles to maintain your curves, you're maintaining your brain health. And the overhead raises thumb, gaze the arm circles that you can do with the grip strength, right? So you're engaging your extensor muscles at the same time and also the rotator cuff muscles. So it's almost like you're treading water but backwards. Again, just 10 repetitions. And the last one, oh, that was it. That was the 4, and then we talked about the Superman exercise. So Dr. Zach Bush is someone that you can look up and you can see his workout. It's a little different than the one I've developed. And or Dr. Michael Hall, functional neurologist. He has exercises for life on a sheet. If you come into my office, you'll be able to see his exercises, and they're a little different again. And now you have mine. So I really do thank you for watching. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. If you do, please send them along, or you can put a link if you have other information that you want to add on brain health in particular. So we're looking at nutrition, we're looking at exercise, ways that we can sort of stimulate a healthy brain. Again, please feel free to post. Julia Rebounder, who's our office manager at Oxford Chiropractic, is a holistic nutritionist. Her and myself are putting together a food guide. So some of the nutritional things I talked about earlier, like coconut oil, for example, is better to cook with. We have a recipe with coconut oil and cocoa, chocolate. Two of the most important elements for good brain health, and it tastes great. Recipes that we've put together in a food guide that will be available sometime soon. So if you're interested, contact us. I'll put you on the list, and when it's edited, we can send that out to you. And also, I've just finished a second book. It's a little slow in the editing process. I don't know, the stars aren't aligning yet. But that book's called Pandora's Box, Secrets of the World Elite, and that'll be out hopefully soon. And again, coaching. So I've integrated in my coaching with clients what I know about chiropractic, neurology, what I've learned through the Braden Institute, executive coaching, DeMartini facilitator, and also my astrology. And I've put it together into kind of a neat package that, again, helps people balance their brain and balance their life. So if you're interested in that, again, please connect with me. But I don't see any questions. I just want to, again, thank you for watching. Invite you to reach for the stars, envision and achieve your personal best. And most of all, enjoy the journey. This is Dr. Dina Churchill signing out.